that rule. Those are not the only things. People, Ugandans also talk about the big fish, because the IGG has always told Ugandans to ensure that if you hear of any corruption case, please feel free to bring up this case to them, and they will carry it upon them to see how best they can get to the conclusion of the matter. Now, all that and more we shall be discussing on the front bench. You can be part of this conversation using the hashtag UBC front bench. We also have a WhatsApp number where you can send in your comments and questions. At an appropriate time, I will be sampling some of them. My name is Jethro Kasaigi. Let's get started.
Oh, Uganda, may God uphold thee. We lay our future in thy hand. United, free for liberty, together we'll always stand. Oh, Uganda, the land of freedom, our love and labor we give, and with neighbors all at our country's call, in peace and friendship we'll live. Oh, Uganda, the land that feeds us by sun and fights our soul grown. For our own dear land, we'll always stand. Kapalapa, Africa's crown. Africa's
Buza Kamiso now, enhancing tax education and bringing it closer to the taxpayers. Many
Fellow countrymen and women, these are our ministers and permanent secretaries at the front bench, representing the various ministries and answering the questions that matter to us. Join the conversation. This is the front bench.
Well, this is the front bench. 0709602592 is our WhatsApp number. You can send in your questions and comments to be part of this conversation. But those who are following us on X, you can as well use that hashtag UBC front bench. My name is Jethro Kasaigi. I do have the Inspector General of Government, Honorable Betty Kamia, together with the Secretary to the Inspectorate of Government, Mrs. Rose Kafero. We are going to talk about issues called corruption. What have they done as an office to ensure that they fight corruption, but also putting in mind that they look at accountability and transparency. Honorable, thank you so much for sparing time to come and address the nation about things you're doing within your office. Honorable, let me start with you. What is your mandate? Uganda needs to understand. People, I think, only know you because of corruption. That is the main thing that you do within your office. I do understand it is among your vision and mission to ensure that we have a corruption-free country.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you again for having us here. And I also want to appreciate the general public, before I answer your question, that when we started the campaign of inviting the public to get involved in the struggle against corruption, it is amazing. The response is amazing. The public have come up so strongly. They're so involved. The number of complaints from people who want to be identified and those who the whistleblowers and anonymous people have increased. So I want to appreciate the public for listening to our call that the war against corruption is everybody's war, because everybody is a victim, because corruption takes money from the public into the pockets of a few people, thereby undermining government's ability to provide quality services for which we pay through our taxes. So I really wanted to thank the public for that. You want to know what our mandate is. The mandate of the Inspectorate of Government is provided for under the Constitution of Uganda in Chapter 13 of the Constitution and Article 225 of the Constitution of Uganda. It is also provided for under the Inspectorate of Government Act of 2002 and amended. And our mandate mainly is to foster strict adherence to the rule of law and principles of natural justice. The spirit behind this is that if everybody strictly adhered to the rule of law, there would be no corruption. Because actually, corruption arises out of people sidestepping rules, regulations, and laws. That's where corruption comes from. It begins with sidestepping or violation or holding in contempt rules and regulations which are clearly laid out in the books of law of Uganda. When you get gaps like that and cracks like that, then you have corruption. So our first mandate is to foster strict adherence to the rule of law, and we do that also. Our next mandate is to foster the elimination of corruption and also to implement the leadership code of conduct. We can talk about that later. And finally, our mandate is to sensitize the public about constitutionalism, the rule of law, and therefore the dangers of corruption. And of course, finally, the Inspector General of Government is also the Chief National Ombudsman. But ombuds issues also arise out of violation of rules and regulations.
Talking about the rule of law, you've talked about justice. Let's talk about the strategies, because corruption is now a song. Every leader who gets on stage is talking about corruption.
It's not every leader.
Ideally.
It is everybody, from the wheelbarrow pusher to the pastor in church, to parliament, in cabinets, wherever you find two or more people.
They're talking about corruption.
They have to talk about corruption if they spend together more than 30 minutes. Because corruption is a manifestation, or rather manifests itself in the quality of services. So when somebody is grumbling about the lack of medicine, when somebody is grumbling about the potholes in the road, when someone is talking about the poor road culture, you know, when somebody is talking about the collapsing buildings, the things that we live with every day, somehow the answer takes you to talk about corruption. That's how widespread it is. So it's not just the rulers, it's actually everybody.
Let's talk about the strategies, Honorable, that you've put in place to ensure that you combat whether petty or grand corruption within the country.
As I said at the beginning, corruption comes out of violation of rules and regulations. And for a long time, we have gone straight to fight corruption. To fight corruption. That means you wait for the sin to be committed, then you take up arms to fight the sinner. But the new strategy are several. One of them is prevention. And prevention, that's what we've been doing in the past couple of years, begins with raising awareness of the people, of the general public, because the general public must reject something, whether it's whatever it is, if it is rejected, if it is embraced by the general public or practiced by the general public, then it becomes a way of life, acceptable. That is a danger. So corruption had come to that level where it is a way of life, where it is acceptable, where it is even glorified, where it is promoted. If somebody becomes rich quickly, they call him smart. They call him smart. If you don't become rich quickly, they think you have a problem. They don't care how you got rich. They're just happy that you're very rich, especially young people. So thereby, the population is actually promoting and glorifying corruption. So one of the strategies is to raise the awareness of the public that corruption is bad, corruption hurts all of us, especially the general public. People originally did not relate to corruption as being personal to them. Personal. They think somebody is stealing government money. They think that man is stealing government money. But we are making them think that this man has stolen my medicine in hospital. That's why my relative died, because my neighbor who works in government stole the medicine from me. So we are bringing corruption home into people's personal lives, hoping that it will change their mindset so that they appreciate that it is their war. They must fight corruption for survival. So the first one was awareness.
Okay. The first strategy.
The first strategy is creating awareness. In addition to the traditional investigations and prosecution and searches and all the things that were traditionally done, now these are the new things. Creation of awareness and getting the public to reject corruption because it hurts them. In addition to that, we also want to follow the money, to follow the proceeds of corruption. So when someone steals the money, what do they do with it? They don't throw it in the lake. They don't flush it down the toilet. It manifests in assets and the lifestyle. So if you follow the money, you will find people acquiring assets that are not commensurate with their known sources of income. You find people living a lifestyle that they cannot account for, how they're able to afford that lifestyle. So our strategy, our first strategy was to create awareness and mobilize the entire population to reject corruption, to fight it, to despise it. Our next one now is to mobilize the population to follow the money. So when they steal your money for medicine, where does it go? You follow the money.
So it is your office that follows?
And everybody should. But we have the people have information. We have the instruments of authority to do something with that information. If you know, for instance, that my neighbor bought a car, a flashy car, a person who works in government, we know his salary is 2 million, but he's driving a top of the range 600 million car, you should get interested in that. But you knowing that my neighbor bought a 600 million car, you have no authority, you don't have the instruments to do something about it. But if you bring me that information, I have the instruments to summon that person, to verify that person, to ask him how to justify how he got it. So this is the partnership between the general population and the people with the instruments of authority as given to them by the people through the power of the Constitution.
Honorable, I will get back to you. As Secretary, as the accounting officer, let's talk about the institution's strategic goals, particularly in the fight against corruption. What are you doing as an office to effectively support through the planning and the resource allocation?
You heard, Honorable, talking about the interventions and strategies. So at the beginning of the planning period, every planning period, we look at government priorities, but most importantly, we consult top management on the focus. Now, as you heard, for the first time period, the focus was on awareness. So that means when we are planning, we strategize and we focus on those strategies that are geared towards that goal. So from there, we allocate resources, more resources to that priority area. If it is awareness, we will allocate more resources on awareness. If it is asset recovery, we will focus our resources on asset recovery. So that yields more results by focusing on the priority areas, but I'm not saying we ignore the other areas. So those are the strategies, because they come from priorities of government, priorities of the IG, the issues at hand, because the issue now is awareness. So once we have concretized those issues, then we start allocating resources, but in a consultative way.
As an office secretary, I do understand you do investigate, and you can cause investigation. You do arrests, and you can as well cause arrests, and very many other things. The Ministry of Finance is going to allocate about 198.7 billion shillings. That is the next financial year, 2025-2026. How are you willing to work within this budget to ensure that you work on all these other priorities? Because what Ugandans need are the results.
First of all, I'm not aware that we have over 100 billion. I think we have around 80, about 89 billion.
On that money?
Yeah, for the budget.
Altogether? Because this was said by the State Minister, Honorable Henry Musasizi.
That is now what has been allocated in the MTEF. As I said, we will allocate that money according to the priorities. But I must say that this is not really enough. We will, because now like next financial year, our focus is promoting the leadership code of conduct, because that's where we'll be able to trace the assets. And so whatever increment we get, we focus it, and we are going to focus it on that area. But we will also make sure that all the other areas are also catered for. So we sit down as a group, as a team, management, and then we decide this is how much we are going to allocate to this.
Do you do that according to the reports that you get from the public?
That one also contributes. There are very, very many factors. The reports, the priorities, and the focus. Those are the three.
Honorable IGG, you talked about what you're doing as an office to ensure that Ugandans really fight this disease. Let's talk about the lifestyle audit, Honorable. This is something you did talk about. But Ugandans have something that is disturbing them, that is the big fish. And I do understand, Honorable, you've really heard of this. When will this stop? That is, if they are the so-called big fish, because everybody is hiding, for example, behind the president, according to the reports that we get to hear of. Some are allegations, probably. Yes.
You see, Jethro, the big fish phenomenon, at least from the perspective of the public, IG, you go after small fish. We hear you prosecuting small fish. Where are the big fish? We want the big fish. By big fish, they mean maybe the public just love their politicians, the big politicians. And what our answer is, the big fish, as you call them, are slippery. they are slippery.
Meaning?
Those that are corrupt, and I'm not saying everybody is corrupt really, and I'm not saying it's not a blanket cover, but those that are, they don't actually touch the money. They have influence, but they don't actually, because you see our law says that you have to prove corruption in a court by bringing evidence beyond reasonable doubt. Now, that's why we are going for the lifestyle audit. If I say so and so big fish stole money from a ministry or a government coffers, to bring evidence against them is so difficult. They don't sign checks. It's these accounting officers who sign checks, but they direct
For the big
them.
fish.
The big fish don't sign. You don't find a minister's signature anywhere
But the secretary signs for the big fish.
because he's accounting officer. So if the big fish says, find me, maybe not a secretary, somebody small, the small fish, secretary is a big fish, but she's accounting officer. But they can say, I need, and we have experience of this, I need 200 million. Find it. Because you fear for your job, because this patronage system, you find it within the government coffers. The big fish has not written anywhere. They have given a verbal instruction.
So tracking them is a challenge?
So when, of course, you have not evidence. You only have the word of the small fish you have got, because it's the small fish's signature that you find. So you take them in, and they say, actually, I took it to my boss. But there's no evidence. So you take in the small fish, because they're the one who signed out the money, he's the one who went to the bank, got the money. When he took it to the big fish did not sign for it, so there's no evidence. So the learning out of this and the appeal we are giving to especially junior officers, don't fear to do the right thing. And if your boss is forcing you to get the money, or ask them for written instructions, get them to sign somewhere. If you fear, if he's too busy to write instructions, draft it for him or her and ask them just to sign. Just tell them, I need instructions. But because of our culture, we are too polite. We can't push your boss to the wall. You don't want your boss to think you don't trust him. So the junior officers take the entire brunt, and the big fish, as we call them, go away scot-free. So it is a big learning, because we've seen people who have been taken to jail, who have lost their jobs, and all they did really is to get money from the bank as instructed, or from a project as instructed, given it to their boss. But the boss did not sign for it, and so they can't take any responsibility.
All right, I do see a number of comments and questions that are really coming in on our WhatsApp number. There is someone, Mayanja Chitaka, asking, thanks for bringing Honorable and her officer. My question is, the regional officer is still working? This is Captain Chitaka Mayanja in Chiboga. I think we shall start from
You will take that, Rose.
yeah, we shall start from that question after this short commercial break. Don't go away.
And women. These are our ministers and permanent secretaries at the front bench, representing the various ministries and answering the questions that matter to us. Join the conversation. This is the front bench.
Buza Kamiso now, enhancing tax education and bringing it closer to the taxpayers. Many Ugandans have questions about the taxes they pay to URA.
When we come at revenue, they tell us to clear Chitenge at 10,000. And when we are selling Chitenge, we sell it at 17. So we don't know whether we are working or not.
Understanding your tax obligations can help you grow your business and avoid unnecessary losses. Now, you can get direct answers. Send your tax-related questions via WhatsApp or SMS to 0790-141-887, and the Commissioner General of URA, John Musinguzi, will personally address them. Tune in to UBC News Tonight every Monday and Wednesday for expert insights and clear explanations. Buza Commissioner.
Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala.
We have to change the political culture in this country, really. Who has bewitched Ugandans?
I want to assure you, as government, we shall do whatever it takes to ensure that Ugandans are safe.
We have conversations that have analysis, explanation.
This law society, this union of theirs, because they want a job everywhere, they want to be this, they want to be that, they want... No. We know it's a union.
You cannot be making a road, bitumen grade 1, in Congo for 5 billion.
But not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth.
The argument that the General Court Martial is responsible for peace and stability is without basis, either in law or in fact.
We have been told how Napoleon was a great orator. Now, Napoleon cannot help me get food. They told me combine harvesters in Saskatchewan. I don't know where Saskatchewan is. This is a geography we're taught. Instead of teaching me how to preserve Mabera forest, they're teaching me about Rhineland. This is a problem we got. We cannot run away from it.
Right now, you hear very disgusting stories of members of parliament. Instead of discussing the details of loans, they ask for their cuts.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda. This is the front bench.
Is the front bench. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for keeping it UBC TV. I still do have the IGG together with the Secretary to the Inspectorate of Government, and they're going to be answering some of your questions as you keep sending them. My Secretary, by the time we went for that break, we do have Captain Chitaka Mayanja from Chiboga who asked if you still have regional offices. Are they still working? That is in Chiboga. But he further says it is wrong to call stealing or embezzlement of government fund corruption. Calling it corruption makes it light in hearing. Tell people so and so is charged for stealing government funds. Chitaka Mayanja from Chiboga.
Thank you, Captain Chitaka Mayanja. We still have the region offices, and each of the 4 traditional regions of Uganda has a number of region offices, between 4 to 6. And each of these region offices, there are 16 in all, operates and then receives complaints. It has an operational area of between 10 to 11 districts.
Okay.
So the region offices are still alive, they are still working, and they are still operational. We have not closed any.
But Secretary, talking about these regional offices, are they really functioning? Because this cuts across to all these other rural areas. Because here in Kampala, people seem to be in the know on what they are supposed to do as far as reporting such cases are concerned. But in rural areas?
Yes, they are still functioning. But maybe what we need to do is to do more about reaching out to the citizens and educating them, making them aware of the work of regional offices, but they are still functional. Yeah.
But talking about awareness as well, still, Secretary, the IGG has talked about it. You have done this on radio, you've done this on TV, you've done this on the newspaper. What is that one thing that Ugandans seem not to understand about this vice that we are all crying about?
I think one, from my point of view, it could be about mindset.
Mindset.
You may talk, every day, everywhere, and people might want to hear what they want to hear. Secondly, I cannot rule out that maybe we still have to do a little bit more. Reach out up to the lowest man on the ground. But we can't do it alone. We have to get other stakeholders to come in. And that's what we are doing. I think what we are saying, we need to do much more, but we are also leveraging on technology, on IT, the radio, TV, even local radios. Maybe we would go even on these other local traditional radios, which sometimes we do.
Okay.
But I think we are doing what we can within the resources we have, but we still need to do more.
To do more awareness. Honorable, back to you. There is a question for you. There is a TikToker who posts videos in which he seems to reveal a lot of information on corrupt people who have amassed a lot of wealth through dubious means. Has your office considered investigating them? Has this come to your office, Honorable?
Actually, we have investigated.
Okay.
Or in the middle of investigating.
This very issue?
Yeah. Some
Okay.
of them we take interest, but you must understand that we are seriously under-resourced. I think that's the main problem. We are terribly under-resourced, understaffed, under-equipped, and so it is difficult to do everything that we would like to do. But I appreciate that TikToker is one of the people, I say, the public, among the public, that have taken keen interest in exposing corruption, and we appreciate it. But then you know also that sometimes the information we receive has to be thoroughly investigated. It is not always driven by correct information. Some, I'll be honest, and I'm not referring to this TikToker, some are wars, boardroom wars, office wars, domestic wars. They bring all sorts of information. And when you follow, sometimes it's a wild goose chase. It's not as if everything you see is right. But most important is that when we get that information, you need to also verify that information. And most of these things, you can say this house belongs to so and so. But when you go to check in the Ministry of Lands, it is registered under different names. So the reporter says, I know this house belongs to Jethro. But when I go to check, I don't find Jethro there. I found someone else. Now I have to find a way of relating Jethro to this house. And it's not easy, because maybe he has put in the names of someone else.
Of my son, or
your
my
son,
mother, or my father.
One time we even found a property in the name of a houseboy, a domestic worker. But when we followed it up to the domestic worker, he was so surprised that he owned such a...
But Honorable, don't you think we need this time round to as well use the name and idea?
Yes, yeah, but the name and shame comes in prosecution. When I take somebody to court,
okay,
I've actually, the press are there. We expect the press and their partners. I really thank the press. They're wonderful partners. Some investigations we pick from the press, several, which have led us to actually recover billions of shillings. We've recovered billions from a story we picked from the press. So mainly, yes, we can do name and on your house, and you put it up for auction. It may not be direct like the news, the news name and shame, but the action actually do name and shame. But you're right, we need maybe to raise it a step higher.
A little high. Honorable, let's talk about the technical workflow.
But the name and shame
yes,
must come after
the court.
Successful prosecution. because in the laws of Uganda, you are innocent until proven guilty.
Honorable, let's talk about the technical flow, our workflow of handling these whistleblower reports from the initial intake to the final action. What are some of the steps that you really go through to ensure that someone is really brought into books to ensure that they account for what they don't have?
First of all, we've just come through the declaration of assets. I hope you declared.
Yes, I did.
Jethro.
Actually, as UBC, the entire staff here, we
they
did.
did.
So, yeah.
So the Constitution under Chapter 14
Okay.
requires all public officers to declare their assets, income, and liability. And they're in two categories. There's one category called leaders. Those are the about 32,000 people. Those are the politicians and a certain category of people named under some schedules. Then the rest, about 350,000, all the teachers, all the other public officers are also required to declare every 5 years. The leaders every 2 years. So, and I forgot, I lost your question, what you asked.
No, we wanted to understand the technical inflow. How do you go through the entire process of the whistleblowers who really bring in this information?
Okay, so I was trying to say that the law requires everybody to declare. And when you declare, then we do verification. It can be at, of course, we don't have the necessary resources to do all the verification, but we sample.
Okay.
And we verify acts of non-declaration, over-declaration, under-declaration. All those are breaches under the law. And many times, I think last year, we even took about over 100 people to the Leadership Code Tribunal.
Okay.
Those who have breached the Leadership Code Act are not declared. The law requires us to prosecute them before the Leadership Code Tribunal. And the sanctions range between a warning to loss of
property,
loss of employment, to even jail time. All that is, but the governing law is the Leadership Code Act, which, among other things, there are many things under the Leadership Code Act, even your use or misuse of public resources, like a government vehicle, you load it with matoke and charcoal and for commercial purposes. That is also a violation of the leadership of the Leadership Code Act. But also the law requires you to declare to the Inspectorate of Government.
On that very matter, Honorable, 31st March, that is 2025, this very year.
Yes.
About 28,856. And the percentage of leaders who have declared was about 90%. This is according to the report that you gave. So at least 34 entities had 100% declaration compliance. What are some of your findings? Because 90% is really a good turn-up, ideally, when it comes to declaration of all these things. What are your findings in this?
90% is a good turn-up, but the law requires 100%.
Yes, but so far?
So far, no, I cannot give you a report right now because the process of verification is a very long one, and it is just about to start. Of course, first it was compilation. You have to compile, and then you have a plan for verification. So I'm not able to tell you that, but I know that the people that did not declare, they have to face the law. But the law provides they first come to us, we summon them, and they explain why they did not declare. If the explanation is not satisfactory, we send them to the Leadership Code Tribunal, who prosecutes them, we prosecute them under the Leadership Code Tribunal, and if they are culpable, then they face the law. But at this point, I cannot really give you, because we haven't started the verification exercise.
Secretary, back to you. Let's talk about the mechanisms as your office you've put in place to ensure transparency and accountability in the utilization of public resources within the institution itself.
Thank you. First of all, as an accounting officer, it is my responsibility to put in place, first of all, controls. Controls for accountability, to ensure that there is accountability for the funds that are dispersed. But where we start from is we start with the budgeting. We have a budget, we have a work plan. So this work plan, annual work plan, is discussed. So we know what we are going to do with the monies that have been voted for the Inspectorate of Government. So from there, we have to do monitoring of performance against the targets that have been set. And this is done in a participatory manner. We have quarterly, monthly, half-annual meetings where directorates report on their achievements against set targets and against resources. That's where now I brought in the issue of having controls, because we have issued internal guidelines. When Minister of Finance issues guidelines on utilization and according to the Public Finance Management Act, we go ahead and make sure that they are stuck to the letter. So we issue internal guidelines in order to implement the law. But we also punish or surcharge those who misuse government funds. We also ensure that there are different stages of control and approvals, such that the person who raises a requisition, for example, is not the person who certifies.
Okay.
So all that helps us. But every quarter, every quarter at the beginning of the quarter, we consult the directors. We also inform them, because they are vote holders. We inform them of what has been released and what their balances are. So that ensures transparency.
All right.
Among others.
Okay. I do have a number of comments and questions that are coming in. One Evelyn Masiko is saying, to fight corruption, please promote accountability and transparency, embrace e-payment, let every transaction be made using mobile money. I think Evelyn Masiko, thank you so much for that. Okay, hey, why is Buhweji not recognized in the services? Is it considered in the Uganda budget? If yes, why do we have poor services? Does that really fall under your office, IGG? This is Nuwarinda Jr. I really do not think. Okay, thanks for hosting. Honorable kindly, Moses Wozei in Kapchora. Corruption is overwhelming. Almost everybody holding a government job is corrupt, starting from the big offices, RDCs, COW, DPC, CID. Every office is corrupt here and the entire country generally. I think he's bringing in a comment. Yeah, we do have one Isaac. What is the difference between abuse of office and corruption? And do you handle both as IGG?
Shall I take that?
Yeah, please.
Well, corruption is a bigger word in which all those words fall. Abuse of office, embezzlement, stealing, you know, non-accounting for money. So corruption is the umbrella, is the umbrella word for all those misdemeanors. The ones I said arise out of sidestepping the law. When you sidestep the law, and say in recruitment, if they say advertise this job, and you advertise it, and when you come to shortlisting, you manipulate the process. You are sidestepping the regulations. That is corruption.
Okay.
If you are overspeeding on the road and the policeman stops you and you give him money. That is corruption.
corruption.
Abuse of office, even anything that is performed outside the law for one's benefit, whatever kind of benefit is rendered, is called, is defined as corruption.
Why do they coil on poor corrupt officers like police?
Sorry?
Why do they coil? This is a question from Kenneth Mwebaza. Why do they coil on poor corrupt officers like police and soft-handle ones who embezzle budget of the whole organization? I think he wants to mean you're kind of selective or something like that.
The other big fish, small fish.
The one we talked about.
Small fish thing again.
All right.
You see, corruption is by nature. It is practiced in the dark, under the table, between willing giver and willing seller.
Okay.
Offshore. It is not something that is public. So it's very difficult to trace and prove. That's why we are telling you that if I cannot prove that you actually took the money, I know that you did not throw the money in the lake. I will trace it through the assets and your lifestyle, because that's the nature. The poor policemen on the road, on the other hand, everybody knows what they do. You stop the vehicle, the driver goes out with a fist.
Actually, they park at a distance. They don't even stop where exactly these officers
so
are.
it is done in the it's a public.
Sure.
The poor policeman is almost a public thing.
Honorable, there is another one here. How will you get information from public when there is no protection to informers? Informers are normally put at risk by the receiver's staff. This is John Bakeiha.
Parliament passed the Whistleblowers Protection Act,
okay,
which actually is supposed to protect the informer. 1. 2, the informer is only known when they expose themselves. As an informer, you are not supposed, your first security is yourself. But some people, they inform, then they go viral and said, I told them, I am going to tell them, I am going to do this. So informer, first protection is yourself. Don't expose yourself. But I also want to tell you, I don't want this to be left behind.
Okay.
Parliament, in its wisdom, in passing the Whistleblowers Protection Act, also legislated that when you bring information about corruption and arising out of your information, money is recovered. You, the informer, are entitled to 5% of the money that is recovered. That is motivation. And to put it in a context, if, for instance, you report theft of 1 billion shillings, somebody was supposed to do a road or a dam, and they didn't do it, and it was worth 1 billion shillings, and will recover it, you are entitled to 5%, which is 50 million shillings. So that motivation, I need the public to understand it. But that does not mean that you should bring false information, because we do thorough professional investigation. And some people, we have paid some informers, but it must be proven corruption. You know?
Okay, now on your screens, my producer actually will be putting all the numbers that you can easily call on in case you're reporting any cases of corruption. The numbers will be on your screen. I think you'll be in position to see them. My producer will place them there. Thank you so much, UBC. This is Juliana Nyombi Virunji. I think she's actually a student. Yeah, my concept is corruption can't be destroyed when our leaders are still corrupt. All the strategies must start with the top leaders, because low ranks copy from high ranks. So my question is, how will corruption be handled if victims bribe judges? This is a student.
But we can't just fold our hands and mourn. We must fight, and fight harder, and fight with everything we have. Even, I'm telling you, in some countries, especially say in the UK, there was a time when corruption was even institutionalized. If you prove that you paid some money to get a service or something, especially in these developing countries, you could ask, it would be tax deductible. You know, like it's almost institutionalizing corruption. But they fought it and they won. So we cannot give up.
Okay.
And
the battle continues.
Yeah, aluta continua.
Sure.
The fight must be, must continue through the generations. By the way, corruption is even quoted in the Bible and in the Quran. It's as old as that. But it's a vice. You can't stop fighting it.
What is the IGG office doing to hold PNFP organizations, officers, in brackets, church organizations, accountable? There is too much financial mismanagement and lack of accountability in those organizations that have caused suffering, yet know where to report. This is Daniel from Barara.
Well, Daniel, the jurisdiction of the Inspectorate of Government ends within circles of government, interests of government, government institutions, government work, government personnel. That's where the jurisdiction of the Inspectorate of Government ends. Now, for other private institutions, like the churches, that is another jurisdiction. That would be the DPP, the CID, and other institutions.
Okay.
But also, I think there's a law, or where there needs to be a law that requires churches to be accountable, or faith organizations to be more accountable. I also think that they need to be regulated. People need to be protected. It's not the people need to be protected even up to that level, because people are trustful, but they need government to protect them.
Secretary, our time is fast spent. More questions and comments are still coming on our WhatsApp number, okay. But our time is really running out. But the last one from you, talking about strengthening internal capacity, particularly staff training and development to respond to evolving challenges to fight corruption. What have you done as an office as we wrap up this?
Okay, as an office and as management, first of all, we have a small budget for training, but we try as much as possible to utilize it using, first of all, identification of our needs, training needs from the appraisals, from the performance management system, then from the directorates themselves and staff. So we sponsor staff for performance improvement courses, also academic achievements like masters, like diplomas, where first of all it is a requirement for performing the job. That is given priority. So we do training, we do placements, and that is part of the training. We do benchmarking with other sister institutions, PPDA, Auditor General, and the rest. But where we have real shortages, we have also come up with a volunteer policy and internship policy. Now, the volunteers that we are going to bring on board will be officers in their technical fields, which are not available in the IG. So these will pass on knowledge to our staff. Right now we have, for example, a handwriting expert, because that resource, that capacity was not within the IG. So this expert has been contracted for 1 year, and then he is training 2 staff. So that helps, among other interventions. Those are the ones I can think of very fast.
Well, thank you so much. Honorable, our time is fast spent.
I'm not contented, because I know we could do more if we were properly, or even a little more resourced. We are understaffed. I think we operate about 60% of the staff. We have a fleet of very old vehicles, some as old as 20 years old. We have a small, really operating budget. So there's a limit to what that can do. But I'm also satisfied that we are on the right track, or we are facing the right direction, the direction of involving everybody in the war against corruption, the sensitization that we are doing, and the following, the strategy to follow up strategically, like the volunteer policy. Through the volunteer policy, we hope to get experts. And I'm talking to the people. You know, the law by government, you must retire at age 60. But some of these people are highly qualified. They are highly trained. They are highly skilled. But they are required by law to retire at 60 years. We need to work with such people to bring their expertise to work with us. Of course, we pay a stipend, we can pay a transport, basic requirements, but instead of, say, going back to the village or staying home because you've retired, come and work with us, but specialized, like she said, disciplines like financial profiling, like fraud examinations, like valuers, like investigators from CID, retired policemen who are skilled. So we are trying to think outside the box, because we don't have salary to fill our structures, but using our operating funds, we get expert support through the volunteer policies. And I think we shall go far with innovation. We are promoting very much strategic thinking rather than generic. Generic thinking is you have a structure, you must fill it, and but generic thinking is I have this little money, I want to maximize the output out of this little money, so what do? I need an expert who retired yesterday.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable IGG Betty Kamea, for sparing time to come to speak to us. Thank you so much, Secretary to the Inspectorate of Government, Mrs. Rose Cafe. Honorable, I think you will accept that the next time we reach out to you kindly. I do understand you have actually, Honorable, you can please read those toll-free numbers in 1 minute. I do understand my producer did lay them on the tags there, but still you can in 5 seconds.
Yes. Those of you who are able to give us information, these are the toll-free numbers: 0800 111 666 and 0800 111 777. And we have a WhatsApp number: 0707 721146. And we also have an email address. You can send your complaint or your information in all small letters, complaints@igg.go.ug.
All right.
We'll respond.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you've actually had it from the IGG herself. I think that WhatsApp number that she has read as well, it's very important. The questions that you're actually sending on our WhatsApp number here at UBC, you can as well direct them to that number that she has read out. We do appreciate. Thank you so much for sparing time to watch UBC at this particular time. The front bench, keep your questions and comments coming in as well using the hashtag, but you can as well tag in the office of the IGG. I think they will spare time to answer some of your questions and comments and complaints. I think you will be helped in one way or another. I think all I have to say for now, the battle to fight corruption continues. If the IGG is not yet satisfied, then we still have to work together as Ugandans to ensure that we fight corruption out of Uganda. My name is Jethro Kasaigi. From me and the entire team, it's a good night.
Oh, Uganda, may God uphold